Hi everyone, welcome to Friday's daily meditation session. Very happy to be here, last day of the week before the weekend, and we're back once again with Kyra Jewel for today's session, so welcome everybody. Just a little bit of an update about Martin. We got a message from him yesterday, which I will read you. He says, I'm recovering slowly but steadily. Most symptoms have now receded, but there's still considerable weakness and fatigue. And he says, mostly I just need to rest. And he says, my spirit is light, open and free, and all is well. So he's getting there, but I think he just, as you can see from them or tell from the message, he just needs more time to recover. So we're really happy that Kyra Jewel has agreed to come back and teach with us next week. So thank you, Kyra Jewel, for that. And we'll really look forward to having you back next week. So if this is your first time joining us, I know that many of you recognize a lot of names there now. I know you're coming pretty much every day, but if you've not joined us before, we're going to be live for an hour, starting with a bit of contemplation, going into a Dharma talk, and then the last 15 minutes or so is your opportunity to ask any questions that have been that have come up from the meditation or the talk. If you'd like to come on screen and ask a question that way, you're very welcome to do that. Just write a message in the sidebar and let me know and I can bring you on. Alternatively, the other way you can ask a question is to just pop it in the ask a question box underneath the screen there. If you click on ask a question, there'll be a box that pops up and you can put it in there. I'd also like to mention dana or donations. As I say every day, we have ongoing costs that we need to meet in order to keep bringing these sessions to you every day, and we rely on your donations to be able to do that. So if you're able to give anything at all, we'd be really grateful. And you can give very easily just by clicking on the offer donation button right underneath the video screen there. Click on that. Again, it will pop up and there are some different options there. Half of what you give will go to us to meet the costs of bringing the sessions to you, and the other half will go to Kyra Jewel to support her. So I'll take myself off and I hope you all enjoy the session today.
Thank you, Caroline, as always, and it's really good to be with you all again. Before I start on today's topic, I want to let you know I had an idea for next week since we'll be together again while Martin rests. It's been 4 weeks now. This is the 4th week that I've been teaching and practicing with you all. So I thought I would invite you to suggest topics that you'd like to explore with me next week. Of course, if a lot of ideas come in, you won't be able to cover them all, but many of you have been following on a regular basis. So maybe there's something you'd like to go deeper into that we've covered, or some aspect that you're curious about that you'd like me to touch on. So Caroline has put the email in the chat, info@sangha.live. So if you could give us your input by the end of Saturday, then we'll have time to look at it and see what we can do with it before Monday. So it can just be a line or two of a topic that you're interested in, and send that to us by Saturday, if you'd like. All right. So welcome again, everyone. And today I want to speak about the importance of Sangha. Sangha meaning spiritual community or spiritual friends, people that we practice mindfulness with. It's one of the 3 jewels, one of the 3 refuges. So the first jewel, the first gem of the 3 gems is the Buddha, which is our own nature of awakening, our own clarity, freshness, calm, wisdom. And we take refuge in that as our support on this path. The second refuge, or the second jewel or gem, is the Dharma, the teachings of awakening, the teachings of love and understanding. And the third refuge, the third of the 3 gems or 3 jewels, is Sangha, the community that lives in harmony and awareness. A community that supports us in learning to see clearly and waking up to our true nature. So the community that we practice with is of extreme importance. And it's called a refuge because it provides protection and safety in times that are difficult, like now. And it also supports us in giving us guidance and giving us clarity. So a beautiful image of the Sangha is of a boat. And Thich Nhat Hanh, my teacher Thai, would say, if we have suffering, it's like heavy rocks. And if we put those rocks in the water, they'll sink to the bottom because they're so heavy. But if we have a boat, we can carry many rocks on the boat and the boat won't sink. And so it's like that with the community. If we have a lot of suffering on our own, it's very hard to hold all that suffering. But if we have a community of people we practice with, we can take refuge in them. We can get on that boat, and there's a way for our suffering to be held so that it doesn't overwhelm us. Everyone, through their practice, creates this container that supports each person. And so our suffering can be held and can be transformed in the embrace of the community. And we can let ourselves be carried in this boat. We can allow ourselves to be held and to be transported. And in our own practice, we support and help to create this container so that others can take refuge and rest and let themselves be transported, be carried by the community. So this is not a path that we can walk alone. This path of awakening, of understanding our minds. While it's true that no one can do, it's key that we have good spiritual friends. So we each have to do our own walking on the path, but it's not a path that we walk alone. So there's a story of Ananda, the Buddha's attendant, and he came to the Buddha and he said, "Isn't it true, Lord, that spiritual friends are half of the holy life?" And the Buddha said, "Don't say that, Ananda. Spiritual friends are the whole of the holy life." So that's, it's everything that we have, people that we can be supported by and support in turn. And so there's a sutra also called the Mangala Sutra, the Sutra on the Blessings. What are the highest blessings? What are the conditions of happiness? I'll just read to you the first verse. So it's a dialogue between a deva, a spirit, a deity, that approached the Buddha and asked, "Many deities and humans have pondered on blessings. Tell me the blessings supreme. What are the highest blessings?" And the Buddha replied, the first thing he said is to not associate with the foolish, to be with the wise, to honor the worthy ones. This is a blessing supreme. And then he goes on to name many other things that are the mark of the highest blessings in our life. But the first thing he said in that sutra was not to associate with foolish people, but to be surrounded by wise people. That having a community of spiritual friends is the highest blessing. So I've been reflecting on this as I think about our community here on Sangha Live, that, to have each other here, that we show up every day, that Caroline told me today that about 175 to 200 of you show up every day, very consistently. That's the numbers. So to have that many people coming every day that we can practice with is a great gift. I experience myself and all of us being so rich to have each other to practice with. So another reflection on Sangha is from Thich Nhat Hanh. So there's this idea, this kind of story that there's been many Buddhas throughout history. Shakyamuni Buddha was just one of many of the Buddhas, and that there'll be future Buddhas. And it's said that the next Buddha will be the Buddha of love, Maitreya Buddha, Maitri meaning love, loving kindness, like metta. So Thich Nhat Hanh, Thai, says the next Buddha will be a Sangha, not an individual. So the sense that what the world needs to really wake up is a community of many people that are practicing, not just one person. And I remember when I was a nun, we were on a tour through the United States that Thai was leading, and we were about to lead a retreat in Colorado for about 1,000 people. And Thai got sick. It was the first time he was not able to teach a retreat in all of his years of practice. He had to be hospitalized because he had a lung infection that was quite serious. And we didn't know till the very first night of the retreat if he was going to come or not. We weren't sure. And it turned out, of all titles of this retreat, it was called One Buddha is Not Enough. So this idea that, the next Buddha has to be a Sangha, has to be many people. And that retreat was an amazing experience. We thought, we weren't sure how people would take it because they had already arrived, they had already paid to get there, they'd already paid for the retreat. And then on opening night, we had to tell them that the main person they were coming to see wasn't coming because he was ill, and we didn't know how they were going to take it. But we organized ourselves within just those few days before the retreat. If he wouldn't be able to come, that the monks and nuns and the lay Dharma teachers, we would give the talks, we would, do the things that Thai would have done. And to our wonder, very, very few people left out of the 1,000 or so, like less than 20 or 30 felt they needed to leave. Everyone stayed for the most part, and it was an amazing retreat. And everyone had to discover in themselves on that retreat that they were a continuation of Thai, that each of us as a Sangha was Thai's continuation, and that it wasn't about having Thai in his person at the retreat, but that as a Sangha we could manifest the awakening, the beauty, the wisdom that he manifested in his individual person as a teacher. So it was a huge opportunity to learn the power of Sangha in that retreat, and to feel empowered that each of us really was, a continuation of Thai and a cell in the larger in the larger body of the Sangha. That we were each helping to create the retreat, and I don't think we would have touched that sense of our own power if Thai had been there. Interestingly enough, because he wasn't there, we had to dig deeper and find that sense of, oh, how can I help carry the Sangha in my own little way every moment of this retreat? So I'm going to offer us a meditation for us to practice loving kindness, gratitude, and taking refuge in the Sangha. And really appreciating the meditation as an opportunity to really appreciate this community that we have all contributed to of Sangha life. So I invite you to come into a posture that supports your presence and stability. Whatever posture that might be. Allowing yourself to settle, to open to what's here. Feel your body. And really allow your body to rest, to fully occupy the space that you're taking up. To let all of yourself arrive and come home in this moment, right here. Connecting to the flow of your breath as you breathe in, as you breathe out. Anchoring in the way the breath moves through the body. allowing the body to release tension as you breathe. Bringing kindness and care to the body. So we'll begin with appreciating ourselves, allowing gratitude for our own practice to arise. Whether we're arriving here, showing up for the first time, or whether we've been here numerous times. Appreciating our own effort, our own intention for learning to know our own minds. So for a moment, coming into touch with what brought you here today, what made you get out of bed, or what is it that has sparked in you that you want to learn meditation, learn mindfulness, that you want to practice with others. Getting in touch with that and really appreciating that, honoring that in yourself. That's a wisdom in you. As you breathe and touch into this intention that brings you here each time you come, you might smile to that energy, that determination, that commitment. Yesterday, I think someone wrote in the chat, "I'm so happy I made it out of bed to come here today." It made me so happy to read that, because we don't want to take that for granted. Each of the nearly 200 people who show up here each day, it took effort, it took commitment to show up. So celebrating this in yourself first. When you think about your own practice to be here each day, honoring and appreciating the way that you have been with difficulties in this practice. A number of you shared how sometimes the meditations we did were challenging, or you couldn't access some part of them, or they were difficult in some way. But still you stuck with it. You kept going. This required a lot of perseverance and probably quite some courage. To explore places that were uncomfortable, that you didn't want to go, perhaps. I'm joining my palms in this moment to thank you for your practice. Just receive that respect, that appreciation into yourself for all the effort you've been making. You could have done something else, something more comfortable instead. Stayed in bed or gotten on your mobile phone. But you showed up here. Many of you have asked courageous and illuminating questions that have helped others to feel more seen and more understood through you sharing your own vulnerability or your own doubts, your own conflicts. And because of you asking those questions, it has helped some others. In this time together, you've practiced listening deeply, really receiving the teachings, the meditations, the sharings of everyone else, whether in the questions or in the chat. Many of you have expressed deep care in these comments you've made on the chat. You've also expressed deep care for others in your quiet, silent practice of supporting and being present for others on the call. Honoring all this, appreciating all this in yourself. And if anything else arises in your mind that doesn't feel so loving, that has arisen during our times together, offering gratitude and care for this as well. This too is an important part of the whole. So sending loving kindness to whatever else your mind may bring up around how you have showed up to these sessions. allowing in this warmth, this sense of gratitude towards yourself for all the ways you have practiced and helped to create a Sangha, a community that expresses love and awakening. If you like, you may want to offer yourself the phrases of loving kindness, the ones I will share or others. As you surround yourself with care and appreciation and kindness. May I be well. May I be safe. May I be happy. May I live with ease. May I have abundant spiritual friendship. And may I be a spiritual friend to others. May I take refuge in the Sangha, the community that practices harmony and awareness. Maybe visualizing yourself really taking refuge in the community, relaxing back on a big boat, or being embraced in some way by something supportive and strong that you can rely on. Next, we appreciate each other. So let yourself give rise to gratitude for all the other participants who show up here every day. Without them, we wouldn't have this chance to connect, to practice together. So each of the 175 to 200 people, each one forms the community that we take refuge in. Let yourself feel their presence and deeply appreciate them. Bring to mind the ways other participants here have contributed to your experience each morning, each day. And sending each person loving kindness, the wish for their well-being, for their wholeness, for their health, for their aliveness, and their joy. May all in my Sangha Live community be well. May all of you be safe. May all of you be happy. May all of you live with ease. May all of you have an abundant experience of spiritual friendship that you give and receive. May each of you take refuge in the Sangha. Feel yourself embraced by the community that lives in harmony and awareness. Now appreciating the Sangha Live community, giving rise to gratitude for Caroline, Jake, Martin, the many other teachers that teach on Sangha Live, the many other staff, Daniel, Amy, those who show up and make these sessions happen, planning them, advertising them, putting out the word, taking care of the registration, all that happens in the background. And then all the people who attend any of the Sangha Live events, like Caverly's daily sessions for the US time zones, those who attend the Sunday evening, weekly sessions, the thousands of people who are part of this online virtual community. Feeling connected, held, grateful to this larger spiritual community of friends. We can connect also with all those who support this Crowdcast platform, the company, all who work at Crowdcast, those who make our internet connections possible, all the people who made our computers and our phones through which we connect to this community, all those who set up the internet lines, the electrical lines in our area, the engineers, the technicians, the construction workers, the scientists, the business people whose work we rely on to get online every day. They are also somehow part of our spiritual community, even if they don't know it. So we bless them. We wish them well. We experience how we're interrelated. And in our final practice of this meditation, we touch the elements of Sangha in our life that are separate from Sangha Live. And this is more generally the friends, the family members, the neighbors, the pets, the plants, the natural places that you like to go that support you where you live, or also that support you remotely. Maybe other groups that you connect with on calls, or your coworkers that you might work with remotely. Whatever other elements of Sangha, of spiritual community, that you can identify that nourish your practice, that support your commitment to seeing your own mind and reality clearly. This may be even magazines of spiritual practice, or books, or films, or music, or apps on your phone, or good conversations, All these are the Sangha, the community in some form surrounding us and helping us. Let yourself breathe in the goodness of all of this support, all of this spiritual friendship in so many different forms. The path you walk through the forest or up the hill or whatever place in nature that you love, that's part of your Sangha, that's part of your community. The sun shining through your window can be part of your Sangha. So just let yourself appreciate all these different elements and wish them well. And we'll close our practice with inviting the image of the net of Indra, where each of us is a node on the net, which is a jewel, wherever strands come together on this net and connect. Each one of us is a jewel at this node, and we reflect all the other jewels on the net. So we're reflecting each other infinitely back and forth. Whatever transformation any of us realize, it benefits the whole. Whatever the other jewels realize or wake up to, it benefits each of us. So letting yourself relax and rest in this sense of an infinite net of jewels reflecting each other without end. And as you're ready, slowly returning to be together in another way, with our eyes open if they were closed. Now we have the chance to connect through words, through speech. So just taking a few breaths and we transition. And if there's any question you'd like to ask, you can write it in the Ask a Question area, or you can come online on the screen and ask. And feel free to share anything you wish in the chat also from your experience. So I'll read out Louise's question. And thank you for your question, Louise. So, regarding today's topic, I feel uncomfortable when you relate the Buddha said, "Don't be with fools." I had a spiritual friend who pretty much dumped me when I didn't continue with her in her particular path, with a particular Buddhist tradition. It felt as though she was no longer interested in my path, and she had no idea that I still practice, though not with her tradition. Could you talk more about this? Thank you. So, yes, I'm sorry this happened to you, Louise. That's unfortunate. And I'm sure that's not what the Buddha intended when he said not to associate with the foolish ones. It didn't mean, abandon people just because they think differently than you. So sometimes we can hold too tightly to our beliefs, to our path, and it can be threatening when other people don't follow what we are finding to be so important for us. And so perhaps for your friend it was easier, or it made more sense for her to have to just be with people who practice the way she does, and that maybe it was hard for her to somehow continue the friendship because it somehow threatened or questioned. It made her question herself. I'm not sure what was going on for her, but I think one of the things we want to practice with Sangha and spiritual friendship is giving each other space to be who we are and to follow the path that we feel really works for us. So, so this is something you can practice with those in your life, and we can all practice. And sometimes other people won't see that as an opportunity to open their hearts. They'll see, that someone's taking a different path than them as a chance to close their heart, and that's unfortunate. But sometimes they're doing the best they can with what they can see of the situation. So we have to accept and let go and try to hold them in our awareness with as much kindness and friendliness, even if it's from a distance. We can take that person as an opportunity to practice loving kindness for the difficult person, someone who's treated us in that way. We can offer them understanding and compassion and care in our meditation, understanding that they have some suffering and it's hard for them to accept others who are different. But we don't have to be that way. We can treat others with a lot of spaciousness and honoring their own unique path. So thanks for the question, Louise.
Kyra Jewel, someone would like to come on screen,
yes.
so I'm just going to try and bring her on.
Oh, great. Wonderful.
Hello, Kyra, dearest friend. So beautiful to see you, my dear friend. And I think actually you have just answered the question that I was going to pose, but I'd like to speak from my heart very much. Absolute pure joy to have been with this beautiful new Sangha, which I am so proud to be part of. I don't think I've missed many, apart from falling asleep once. But just to say that in England we are suffering very, very greatly with the virus, and a number of our Sangha members are deeply affected. And maybe you could give some guidance how we deal in the Sangha where there is very serious illness and death, and you know, a lot of us supporting people who are very, very sick at the moment. Thank you, Kyra. Always a joy to see your beautiful smiling face.
Thank you, Yvonne, for coming on. I'm so happy to see you also. And thank you for that very heartfelt question. You know, Clarissa Pinkola Estes is a Latina author and writer and activist, Jungian psychologist. And she wrote a piece that I was very, very touched by, I think around 2016, 2017. But she says, we were made for these times. All of our practice, all of our spiritual engagement has prepared us for exactly this moment to engage, to be here for this challenge. And so I think we can really feel the depth of our roots going down into all of our ancestors who practiced some kind of spiritual practice. We can go dig our roots into all of our land ancestors who have gone through grave difficulties in our country before and managed to survive and bring new forms into the society that we're healing. So we need to call upon the strength that we have already in us, because we do have everything we need in order to meet this very difficult moment of death, of illness. And so we can reflect on our ancestors, both our blood ancestors, genetic ancestors, our spiritual ancestors, our land ancestors, who went through the Spanish influenza in 1918 all over the world and faced a great deal of death and loss, and were able to come through that in some way stronger. All of our ancestors who lived through wars and invasions, or bombings of other, the UK had to go through being bombed by Germany and in the war. So there's a tremendous amount of strength and power in connecting to what we've received from our ancestors that we can draw on in this time of crisis. And to really feel that our practice is also exactly what we must draw on right now. And that all of this time of looking deeply, of connecting to our breath, to our bodies, to notice impermanence, we have to practice it now as the people we love get sick and we don't know if they'll recover or if they pass away. We have to see that, open our heart with great compassion for their suffering, to accompany them, to accompany ourselves as we go through that grief, and also open to the reality that was always there but less obvious, that we are not in control, and that anything can happen at any time. That's what the practice helps us to be prepared for, to see that that's always possible. Now it's just more obvious. Terrible things are happening that we didn't want to happen. But we know that life involves this suffering and uncontrollability. So the more we can let go of resisting what is, the more we can access energy to respond with love, with clarity, with awareness, rather than reactivity. So when we touch peace, when we touch a moment of calm, of stillness, that's the best gift we can offer someone who's very ill. So not our worry, not our blaming or judging, those who didn't, do their jobs in power, but any measure of calm, of clarity, of deep love and appreciation that we can get in touch with, that was the best way to support someone who is very ill or who is dying. And it's the best way to support ourselves also. So every moment is a moment for practice as we, do our smallest things, from eating to washing up to going to the bathroom. All of these moments of mindfulness help us to be very present when we're there with someone who's ill or dying, even if it's by phone because we can't see them in person. But we can offer our presence to those who are deeply suffering when we are able to be fully present in our daily life from moment to moment. And that's the best way we can support each other in this very difficult time. So I'm sending you a big hug, Yvonne, and all the people in your beautiful Sangha that I have very fond memories of. And we'll hold each other close in this time. So there's a final question I'll read from Natalie. And it says, being nourished by philosophy readings, as well as Christian tradition, and some years of engagement, as well as a long immersion in Buddhist practices in the Cambodian tradition, I'm not clear on what belongs to spirituality or to our common humanity that we are trying to live as open, compassionate, and responsive as we can. Do we need that spiritual search quest part? What does that refer to in your understanding? Thank you for this question, Natalie. I think I see your question as sort of like, what's the purpose of a form, like a spiritual form? Because what that form holds is in essence beyond form, right? So if you take Buddhism as a form or Christianity as a form, those are, specific practices. But what they are trying to help the practitioners who do them experience is something much deeper, much broader, vaster than Buddhism or Christianity, right? So maybe an image is there are many wells that can get dug down into the groundwater, that all the wells have access to the same groundwater, but each particular well has its own shape, has its own place, has its own characteristic, but the water they're drawing up is the same water. And so I think that spiritual search or thirst that shows up in spiritual communities it's just one way to access what you're talking about as a human birthright, this knowing ourselves to be part of something larger, this mystical awareness of interbeing, right? So I think that understanding, that awakening, it's not dependent on the form. The water is the same sweet water, regardless of which well it comes from. And it doesn't even need a well to be tasted. You can taste it when it comes down from the mountain stream. So I think one of the things I know Thai would say is, as a lifelong Buddhist monk since age 16, he would say this isn't about Buddhism. This is much bigger than Buddhism. His assistant, Sister Chimkong, would say, Thai has graduated the form of how we touch into these truths. The wish, the feeling drawn magnetically to open ourselves to them is outside of any of the particular paths. I think it's just in every human heart that we're here to wake up in some way to our connection to everything else. And these forms can be helpful sometimes to help us connect to that, to develop that. But for some people, they don't need those forms, or they can touch it in other ways. So I hope that's somewhat of a response to your question. So we close our time together today. It's been very beautiful to be with you. I'm wishing Martin a lot of good rest and nourishment in the coming week. I'll look forward to being with you again next week, and I'll look forward to hearing your ideas for what you might like to explore together next week. So I'm practicing what Thich Nhat Hanh would say: use your Sangha eye. Don't just use your individual eye. We have to use our Sangha eye. So I ask for your guidance, dear Sangha, and thank you for this practice together. Have a good weekend.